Shut up. You should have went with Sean to Penn Station. It sounded lit. He was like, yeah, we were late, but we just gave him a trade. We traded him some food. He was like, all right. I mean, that's all you have to do.
solid ground. The nations rise and fall. The kingdoms once strong, now shaking. We trust forever in your name. In the name of Jesus. We trust the name of Jesus. You are the only King forever. Almighty God, we lift you higher. You are the only King forever. Forevermore, you are victorious. You are the only King forever. Almighty God, we lift you higher. You are the only King forever. Forevermore, you are victorious. Unmatched all your wisdom, in love and justice you will reign, and every knee will bow. Our expectations, our hope is anchored in your name. In the name of Jesus, we trust in. Oh, oh, we trust the name of Jesus. You are the only King forever. Almighty God, we lift you higher. You are the only King forever. Forevermore, you are victorious. You are the only King forever. Almighty God, we lift you higher. You are the only King forever. Forevermore, you are victorious. Let's lift our banner high to Him. We lift our banner high. We lift the name of Jesus. From age to age you reign. Your kingdom has no end. We lift our banner high. We lift the name of Jesus. From age to age you reign. Your kingdom has no end. You are the only you are victorious.
How was that?
Not gonna lie, dude, you scared me.
Okay. There's stuff over there.
There is
in
stuff
the
over
way.
there. Good job.
How you guys doing? Good. Gosh, why am I out of breath? I know why. How you guys doing? Awesome, awesome. How was school today? Was it good? Was it good? I love it. Love school, love it all. We only have 2 announcements. First announcement is, if you guys are going to Guatemala, raise your hand. Raise your hand if you guys are going to Guatemala. That's good. We have this Saturday from 9 to 12 a mandatory Guatemala meeting. So be here before 9, like 8:50 if you want, and we'll be done by noon. You got that? Awesome. Second announcement. Next Wednesday, we also have a Guatemala meeting. So, again, if you guys are going to Guatemala, stay after. It'll be a quick meeting. Just stay after youth group. We'll be here. Awesome. I need 2 people who are like just the cleanest people ever. Like they wash their hands always. They always blow their nose. They always wash their hands even after only they pee. Promise. All right. Up here, yes. Awesome, right here. What's your name again? What? Amelia? All right, come on up here. Give it up for Amelia. All right, awesome. Another person. Let's get a boy. Yingst. Yes, Yingst. Come on up here. Bring it up here. Awesome. We're actually going to play this game down here so that we don't get the stage all messed up. Raise your hand if you have ever seen Minute to Win It. Now you can go down there. You can both go down there. You can go down there. Have you guys ever seen Minute to Win It? This is one of my favorite games. On the screen behind me will be a 1-minute timer. And your goal is, by only using one hand, is to empty out this box, pulling them one at a time. Does that make sense? So just one hand, one at a time, as fast as you can. Do you think you got this? All right, is the 1-minute timer up there? I'm gonna give you guys a countdown. You ready? 3, 2, 1, go! Faster, no, yes, only one hand. Get them all. That's it, okay. You guys, you gotta no, you can only do one at a time. What are you doing? No, you can only do one at a time. Put them back in. One at a time. 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 All right, we got a winner, Kian, yes! Man, was I speak? I think one is like universal. That's all right. Hey, give it up for our contestants. Kian, come on up here. We have a special prize for you. Come on up here. Kian, because we know what season it is. I went to Kroger and they're out of toilet paper, so that's for you. So there's one roll, use that wisely. And we also got you a little bottle of hand sanitizer in case you need, to sanitize your hands. And also some individually wrapped Starbursts so that you can share and not contaminate your friends. All right, stand on up. Come close. You guys will be fine. Get ready to worship. Give it up for the band.
How you doing inside out? Doing good? Everybody healthy? Yeah. So tonight we're going to teach you all a new song. It's pretty simple. The main tag of this song just has this part that says, there's nothing that our God can't do. There's not a mountain that he can't move, not a prison wall that he can't break through. So let's sing this out in faith tonight. Just one word, you calm the storm that surrounds me. With just one word, the darkness has to retreat. With just one touch, I feel the presence of heaven. With just one touch, my eyes were open to see. My heart can't help but believe. There's nothing that our God can't do. There's not a mountain that he can't move. Oh, praise the name that makes a way. There's nothing that our God can't do. Just one, heal what's broken inside me. Just one word, and you revive every dream. With just one touch, I feel the power of heaven. With just one touch, my eyes were open to see. My heart can't help but believe. There's nothing that our God can't do. There's not a mountain that he can't move. Oh, praise the name that makes a way. There's nothing that our God can't do. Oh, I know there's nothing that our God can't do. There's not a prison wall he can't break through. Oh, praise the name that makes a way. There's nothing that our God can't do. Oh. And I will believe for greater things. There's no power like the power of Jesus. So let faith arise, let all agree. There's no power like the power of Jesus. And I will believe for greater things. There's no power like the power of Jesus. So let faith arise, let all agree. There's no power like the power of Jesus. And I will believe for greater things. There's no power like the power of Jesus. Let faith arise, let all agree. There's no power like his power. There's nothing that our God can't do. There's not a mountain that he can't move. Oh, praise the name that makes a way. There's nothing that Jesus can't do. Oh, there's nothing that our God can't. There's not a prison wall he can't break through. Oh, praise the name that makes a way. There's nothing that our God can't do. Oh, sing. Oh, 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 oh. Come on, sing that out again. Oh, 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 oh. There's
King of my heart, be the shadow where I hide, the ransom for my life, for reasons you are
You're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. No, you're never gonna let me down. No, you're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. Yeah, you're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. Yeah, you're never gonna let me down. Yeah, you're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. You are here, moving in our midst, and I worship you. I worship you. You are here, working in this place, and I worship you. I worship you. Sing that again. You are here, working in it. Yeah, I worship you. Yeah, I worship you. You are here, working in this place, and I worship you. And I worship you. Because you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Yeah, you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are here, touching every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, healing every heart. And I worship you. I worship you. You are here, you're turning lives around, and I worship you. Yeah, I worship you. You are here, mending every heart, and I worship you. Yeah, I worship you. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are yeah, waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Oh, and that is who you are. 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 Oh, that is who you are. 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 You are my waymaker. Sing this out together, even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I can't see it, you're working. And even when I can't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. 'Cause even when I can't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Or even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. And you are a waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Oh, that is who you are. 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 Jesus, that's who you are to us. The one who makes a way when there's no other way. Regardless of what situation we walk through, God, we know that you're with us, that you've made a way for us. God, I pray that you would show us that tonight through your word. In your name we pray. Amen.
Hey, real quick, turn to the person next to you and say, hey, I'm glad you're here. Cool? All right. Now, turn to the person next to you and say, hey, we need to listen to what he has to say. So from now on, until I'm done, there shouldn't be any more conversation. Your phones should be put away. If you need notes, I will send them to you tomorrow. All right? Hey, rules. They're not very fun. You're like, yeah, you just gave us one. That's not fun at all. A lot of times rules, they come across as being boundaries, being restricting. They're telling us what we can and can't do. No one likes that. Hey, man, I've got one life, and now you're trying to corral me. You're trying to put me around these rooms, these walls that I can't get out of. And that's not fun, especially as a middle schooler, high schooler, college age. It seems like you have more rules than anybody else. But you know what's worse than rules? It's the people who are enforcing those rules, and then they break them. Take, for instance, the cop, the police officer. And if you're watching online, or your parents or somebody you know is a police officer, I'm not talking bad about them, but they'll pull you over for speeding, and then I've never seen a police officer go the speed limit. They're always flying by. And it's like, hey, that's not fair. Or what about your parents? They're always on you all the time. Hey, get off your phone. Get off your Xbox. Get off the computer. And then they never seem to have time for you because they're on their phone. Or they've got to watch their episode. Or what about that one kid? Man, they say they're a follower of Christ, and the only person they're following is the person who's the most popular in school. And what they're doing is not Christ-like. Up until that point, man, you were all with me. You're like, that's awesome. Yeah, let's kick the door down. Let's kick some teeth in. Let's start pointing fingers. But then it hit a nerve. Oh, he's talking about me. Hey, this series is in your face, okay? We started it last week, See No Evil. And last week I asked you, just open your eyes. Open your eyes to the world of injustice around you. And just to remind you, injustice itself is when we're treating someone unfairly. When we're having a conversation, words, actions, or demeanor are making someone feel less than, almost like as object or below us. That's the injustice that I asked you to look around. And hopefully within the last 7 days, you were able to witness, you were able to see not only who the injustice was impacting, but those that the injustice was being caused from. From the Bible, there's not a whole lot of verbiage that carries over. Covenant, anointed one, forgiveness. Those aren't normal day conversational words. But hypocrite, we've all heard. Hypocrite might even been said from our lips. Hypocrite, we've maybe said to someone else. Hypocrite has maybe even been said about us. Hypocrite, it gets uncomfortable because we're quick to point the fingers. I remember once, and I was in college, it was a religion class, and we were talking about a group that weren't obeying what God wanted. They were just rebellious, they weren't following directions. And I was in the back of the class, I was a freshman, and I remember just kind of being brass. I was just like, why didn't God just wipe them out? You know, like he could do that. They're not paying attention, just get rid of them, clean a house. That's what he should do anyways. And our professor, Dr. Young, and this guy was always dressed to the T, like slacks, always had a tie, a nice jacket, had these sophisticated glasses. And he was just like, I'm glad he didn't, Mr. Souter. And that caught me off guard, like, what are you talking about? He's like, because he could do that with us. So many times we're so quick to point. So many times we're ready to judge. Hey, so many times, put that person on the cross. Think about it, the bully, the person who's always picking on everybody else, making fun of them, always in their way, just bringing them down. And we're like, man, that person's awful. They're so mean. And then we go home and we do the same thing to our siblings. Or that gossip, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she said or did that. And all we have to do is go back into our DMs, and we said or did the same exact thing that we found just out of this world, awful, last week. Or that person, man, hands are up, they have all the answers, like that person in our youth group, man, they are so one with God. But then we see a completely different person on Friday night. And you know what? That could also be you. Tonight, I don't want to point fingers. I'm not trying to get underneath your skin. I'm not even trying to make you feel bad. But what I am trying to do is open your eyes to see that if we want a world that we can impact, if we want to help these people around us, we got to start internally. This is where I could say, hey, we're all hypocritical. Because on one side, hey, we need to do something about this. But then on the other side, we don't even realize what we're accusing and pointing and we have a problem with, we might be doing ourselves. And not to anyone's fault, but a lot of times we're not thinking that way and it gets overlooked. Take it several years back to Jesus' time. Jesus is on a roll, okay? He's like, all right, I'm going to make sure the world knows who I am and what I'm about. And so the Sermon on the Mount is kind of his coming out party of just saying, this is who I am, this is what I'm about, pay attention. And he's talked about the Beatitudes, and he's talked about we're the salt of the world and we're the light. And everybody's sitting here and they're like, okay, this is good, this is good, this is good. And it even comes to chapter 5, verse 21. And I can tell just from reading this, hey, Jesus has got their attention. Like, okay, everything he's saying sounds really, really good. We're on board with this Jesus guy and what he has to bring. And he kind of just starts going old school. Old Testament, people should know this. Verse 21, he says, you have heard that our ancestors were told, you must not murder. If you commit murder, you are subject to judgment. And I think a lot of people on the mountainside, they're like, yeah, okay, we get that. Cool. But then Jesus says, but if I say, if you are even angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. Oh, come on now, Jesus. Like, murder we get, we know that's wrong, but if we're angry with somebody, think throughout your day. It's almost nearly impossible, especially being in middle school or high school or college age or a 39-year-old, that we're not angry at least once at somebody. And Jesus is saying here, listen, in my eyes, murder, being angry, they're the same. The same judgment is going to be thrown upon you. Jesus goes down a little bit further in verse 27 and 28 of chapter 5. You've heard the commandments that say you must not commit adultery. But I say anyone who's looked at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Now, Jesus, stop right there. Come on, man. That's your fault. You made beautiful women. All right, you're giving me these thoughts. That's unfair. Because adultery, like, okay, I get that. That's an act I can resist. But a thought? Like a thought? You're getting on me about a thought? And Jesus is saying, yes, even the thoughts. And with Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all these things, Sex sells. So everything we see is made to trigger a thought. And Jesus is saying, we got to block that. Jesus wasn't trying to make life hard. What he was actually trying to do is keep us out of trouble. Because look at it. We're thinking big things, murder, adultery, stealing. Hey, we can avoid those. But what about gossip? Oh man, I can't wait to tell such and such. We love talking about people behind their back. But it's embarrassing, it's hurtful, it ruins friendships when other people are talking about you. Or hey, did you see what such and such did? I can't believe that. Or what about fake people? When we were talking about swiping right, like what's the one thing that drives you crazy? I heard more about, man, fake people. They act one way in front of you, but are completely different when you're not there. Oh man, Bradley, you're really striking a nerve now. Because this is every single one of us. When I first started to write this, it's like hypocritical. Hey man, I'm judge-free. Like I say that publicly, judge-free. And I really, really try really hard not to judge people. One reason, I don't want to be judged, all right? Second reason, I got enough stuff I got to figure out. I don't have time to figure out this stuff for you. I was thinking, man, I really don't have a whole lot of issues here. And then I started doing an evaluation. Jesus goes on to say in chapter 7, how can you think of saying to your friend, hey, help me, I'll help you get rid of that speck in your eye when you can't see past the log that's in your eye? You hypocrite. First, get rid of the log in your own eye. That way you can see enough and deal with the speck in your friend's eye. Why do I have this 2x4? If you know me, I'm a hugger. All right? In our house, it doesn't count if you don't hug back. Elliot is the first one to tell you that. Dad, it doesn't count. You're not hugging back. And to hug back, both hands have got to be around you. It is extremely hard to hug a person with two arms holding this 2x4. If you've been here long enough, you know I love to use my hands. This is driving me crazy, having to hold this 2x4. We're so quick to point, to accuse. I can't believe. Hey, I'm going to fix your problems. We still had this log in our eye. I still had this 2x4 on my shoulder. Think with me for a second. If we're supposed to be this generation that's going to rid the world of pain and sorrow and injustice and ridicule, where does that need to start? Again, we thought last week, hey, I'm going to look and I'm going to fix, and we were looking outside. Where we really need to look is inside. Last week, we said you don't need a telescope or a magnifying glass or binoculars. You needed a heart. But now we got to take that heart and we've got to look at it. So one thing we're going to do tonight in small groups is a self-evaluation. Because the first thing we've got to be able to do is do a diagnostics. Okay, like if something's wrong with your car, you take it to an auto place, and they basically, especially if it's of a certain date, they hook it up to a computer, and this computer runs these tests through the car, and then it'll feed back what's wrong with the car. It's a diagnostics. That's what we have to do. Because like me, okay, maybe pride's something that I have to work on. When I started writing this message, like, the big things I don't have an issue with, but the little things, that log, man, I could point out real quick, this is what you need to fix, and this is your problem, and this is why, this is this. But this right here, I couldn't see it until I stopped. I stopped looking at the world around me and started looking at my world. When I first started talking to Seth about taking this position, inside out, man, what does that mean? It went right over my head, and it's so obvious. Inside out. We start on the inside, and we work out all of our flaws, all our imperfections, all of our sins, all of our logs. We got to take care of ourselves first so we can help those out there. Inside out. Because once the things that are inside are right, then we can start showcasing and presenting. People are going to start noticing that more than this. So imagine, instead of a world where we're pointing fingers, where we're accusing, where we're holding grudges, where there's sexism and racism, instead of looking at a group and like, I can't stand that group, we're looking at the group of concerns we have inside of ourselves. We're saying, okay, I need to fix these. Because that's the issue that comes next. We know our flaws. We know our logs. We can have an evaluation. We can figure out all this data. What are we going to do with it? Because, hey, I know this is here, but man, it gets heavy. It's blocking things I want to do. I want to put both my hands around somebody when I'm giving them a hug. Not just one and actually knock them in the back of the head with a 2x4. So tonight you could take the evaluation and you could wad it up and throw it away. Or you could actually sit down and evaluate yourself. I'm forcing you to take a time out and say, okay, all these areas of my life, these conversations, these group of people, internally, myself, where am I at? Because from day one I've challenged you, what could we do collectively? Because maybe the whole world won't buy into this. We should. One of the greatest quotes and one of the most scariest quotes I ever heard was from Gandhi. Gandhi's not a Christian. He said, this Jesus guy, I like him, but Christians, no, I don't. Because what he saw in Jesus, he wasn't seeing in Christians. If we are to be followers of Christ, we need to be a reflection of Christ. The greatest compliment I think any of us could get as a believer of Christ, I can see Jesus in you. I made it public. Brian Lindsay, to me, he is the perfect example, or the closest, not the perfect, but the closest example I've ever experienced of Jesus Christ. Gordy Prather, he's another great friend of mine, a very good example of what Jesus Christ is wanting us to be. And these guys aren't perfect. I mean, they got a lot of things figured out. I'm working towards trying to be closer like Christ. So this week, I want to challenge you. God, help me see injustice. Help me see imperfections. Help me see flaws. Help me see logs and 2x4s in me. And then once we realize what these things are, let's do something about them. It's not going to happen overnight. But find that friend. Okay, last week I brought up, hey, as a coach, even as a student minister, I'm constantly asking, how can I do a better job? Now, it would be one thing, hey, Aubrey, how do I do a better job? And he tells me, all right, Ellie, Abby, Jody, whoever, how do, and they give suggestions. Oh, that's great. I write it down, and I don't do anything with it. So once we have this information, once we have this diagnosis, we got to do something about it. Find an accountability partner. Get in God's word. Pray about it. Honest to goodness, if you're determined to do something, you're going to make those changes. And imagine, we got probably 105 people here tonight. Imagine what kind of change we can make if there was 105 of us just fixing one piece of our life. I want you to kind of leave here with this. And I love, love, love how the Message wrote this. It's Romans 12, and it's verses 1 and 2. And the Message, the way they write it, it's just like you're kind of reading a normal book, if you will. Romans 12, 1 through 12, or 1 through 2, excuse me, it says, so here's what I want you to do. God helping you, take your everyday, ordinary life. You're sleeping, you're eating, you're going to work, walking around life, and place it before God as an offering. Embracing what God does for you is the best thing you can do for Him. Don't become so well adjusted to your culture that you fit into it without even thinking. Instead, fix your attention to God. You'll be changed from the inside out. Readily recognize for what He wants from you and quickly respond to it. Unlike the culture around you always dragging you down to its level of immaturity, God brings the best out of you, develops well-informed maturity in you. Again, if we could remove a log from our eye. Oh, that would be awful. What could this do? What could your community, what could your school, what could you, inside out, look like? I'm willing to find out. Are you? God, I thank you for your patience. Thank you for your willingness to still invest when we have habits, when we don't see the good in others. We can't even see the good or the harm that we have in ourselves. So God, I ask and continue to pray for patience from you, for ourselves. God, I pray that our hearts and our eyes are open, not just to the world around us and the injustice that we see from others, but of the injustice that we see in ourselves. And God, if we're honest, we're going to come up with a list of 20 or 30 things. But can we change one? Can we commit to that? Can we be faithful in that? And knowing, hey, the ultimate goal, I want to be closer and more like Christ. Can someone see that difference in us? Because that difference in us might be what makes a difference in them. Inside Out, it's a cool name. That's our meaning, that's our living, that's our breathing. Can it be our lives? In your name we pray. Amen. Thanks, group. What's going on, brother? How are you, man? Still on.